They called security to handle a trespasser, but when real law enforcement arrived, the HOA got a taste of their own medicine. It all started with a pair of hedge clippers and a quiet Saturday afternoon. Nathan Whitmore had just moved into his new home in Westfield Heights, a well-manicured neighborhood just outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of place with wide sidewalks, pristine lawns, and just enough HOA rules to make you wonder if the whole thing was a country club in disguise. For Nathan, this was supposed to be a fresh start. 20 years in law enforcement had given him a front-row seat to the worst parts of humanity. He'd dealt with criminals, liars, and the occasional fool who thought they were above the law. But here he was just another homeowner, another guy mowing his lawn on the weekend, enjoying a little peace and quiet with his wife, Monica, and their 16-year-old son, Jalen. Dressed in an old UNLV t-shirt, basketball shorts, and sneakers, Nathan wasn't thinking about anything serious that day. He had one mission: trim the hedges, take a shower, and fire up the grill before the game came on. But peace wasn't on the menu today. As Nathan snipped away at the overgrown branches near his driveway, he heard the unmistakable sound of slow-moving footsteps behind him. He didn't even need to turn around to know someone was watching. "Excuse me," a voice called out. Nathan let out a quiet sigh before turning. Standing before him was a stocky, middle-aged white man, bald, wearing khaki shorts, a navy blue polo, and a smug expression that instantly set off alarm bells. Behind him were two more people, a woman in her late 50s with a clipboard and a tall, wiry man with sunglasses pushed up onto his head. Nathan didn't know them, but he knew their type. HOA people. The kind that treated neighborhood rules like federal law and took personal offense at anyone who didn't fall in line. Nathan gave them a polite nod. "Afternoon." The bald man stepped forward. "Sir, I'm Mark Simmons, head of the Westfield Heights Homeowners Association Enforcement Team. This is Patricia Carter, our compliance officer, and Doug Atkinson, neighborhood security liaison." Nathan raised an eyebrow. Liaison? Was that just a fancy way of saying nosy neighbor? Mark adjusted his belt and gave Nathan a tight-lipped smile. "We received a few complaints about an unfamiliar individual loitering on this property. Residents were concerned. Thought you might be a landscaper working without a permit." Nathan blinked. "A landscaper?" Patricia clutched her clipboard. "Yes, sir. And we take property violations very seriously here." Nathan glanced at his house, then back at them. "I live here." Mark's smile faltered for half a second, but he recovered quickly. "Oh, well, we weren't aware of any new homeowners moving in." Nathan took a step closer, resting his weight on the hedge trimmers. He kept his expression neutral, but inside, he could feel his patience thinning. "We moved in last month. My wife and I signed the HOA paperwork. You should have our names on file." Doug, the tall guy with sunglasses, muttered, "I don't think we do." Patricia gave a forced chuckle. "Well, even so, we have very strict guidelines about property upkeep and conduct. And right now, it looks like you might be in violation of several HOA regulations." Nathan exhaled through his nose. "Such as?" Mark glanced at the hedges. "For starters, these bushes are over 4 inches above the permitted height." Nathan laughed before he could stop himself. "You've got to be kidding me." Patricia flipped a page on her clipboard. "Also, we have rules about proper attire when engaging in outdoor maintenance. Shirts with offensive logos or designs are strictly prohibited." Nathan glanced down at his UNLV t-shirt, a college basketball logo. "Offensive to who?" he asked. Doug folded his arms. "That's not the point. Rules are rules." Nathan nodded slowly. He'd had his fair share of pointless conversations before, and this was starting to smell like another one. But something about their expressions, the way they were watching him, waiting for him to push back, made it clear this wasn't just about hedges or t-shirts. And sure enough, Mark squared his shoulders and delivered the line Nathan knew was coming. "I'm going to need to see some ID." But Nathan wasn't about to let this conversation go the way they wanted. Nathan tilted his head, sizing them up. "ID?" He repeated the word slowly, letting it hang in the air like a bad smell. Mark nodded, standing a little taller like he'd just won something. "Yes, sir. We have a duty to protect the integrity of this neighborhood. We can't have just anyone walking around." Nathan let out a slow breath. He knew where this was going. He'd been here before, different places, same game. He glanced toward his house. Jalen was on the porch, earbuds in, but watching. Monica was probably inside, halfway through an episode of some cooking show, completely unaware that her husband was being asked to prove that he belonged in his own front yard. Nathan could feel the weight of it. And yet, he didn't rush to explain himself. Instead, he let the silence stretch. Mark's smirk flickered just enough to show he wasn't used to people making him wait for an answer. Nathan crossed his arms. Let me get this straight. You saw me, in broad daylight, working on my own yard. And your first thought was that I was trespassing? Patricia cleared her throat, shifting uncomfortably. No one's accusing you of anything, sir. Doug nodded. We're just following protocol. Nathan turned toward him. What protocol? The one where you stop only certain people for ID? Doug's jaw twitched. That's not fair. Nathan chuckled, shaking his head. Oh, it's fair. What's not fair is that I pay the same dues as everybody else, and I still have to explain myself like I'm some stranger off the street. Mark wasn't backing down. If you're a homeowner, then there's no issue, right? Just show us your ID, and we'll be on our way. Nathan had dealt with men like Mark before. They never asked because they truly needed to know. They asked because they could, because it made them feel in control. Nathan rubbed his chin, pretending to think it over. Then he hit them with, Show me yours first. Doug blinked. What? Nathan gestured lazily at Mark's polo. You're walking around claiming to be HOA enforcement. That a real position? You got a badge, an ID, anything official? Patricia hesitated. Well, no, but... So you're just... What? Some guy with a clipboard? Mark's face reddened. Listen, sir. Sheriff. Nathan corrected him, cool as ever. Not sir, sheriff. Mark's mouth clamped shut. Doug took a step back. Patricia froze like someone had cut the cord on her brain. And just like that, the power shifted. Nathan reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet, flipped it open. The golden badge inside caught the sunlight, making it shine just enough to shut everybody up. Mark blinked. Twice. You're... Nathan nodded. Nathan Whitmore, Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. And now, I've got a question for you. Mark's posture stiffened. Nathan tilted his head. You said you were enforcing HOA rules, but you also tried to perform a citizen's arrest on someone you didn't know. That's impersonating law enforcement. Doug swallowed hard. Now wait a minute. You called me a trespasser on my own property, Nathan continued. And from where I'm standing, that sounds an awful lot like harassment. Mark looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. It was a misunderstanding. Nathan smirked. That's funny, I hear that one a lot. But they weren't done making mistakes yet. Mark's face was twisting in real time, his confidence melting away under the weight of that badge. But instead of backing off, he did what guys like him always do when they realize they've messed up but don't want to admit it. He doubled down. This has nothing to do with you being a... Mark caught himself, lips twitching like he'd almost said the quiet part out loud. A sheriff. Nathan gave a slow, knowing nod. Go ahead. Say what you were about to say. Mark glanced at Patricia, hoping she'd jump in. She didn't. Doug, who had been quiet for the last 30 seconds, cleared his throat aggressively. Look, this is getting blown out of proportion. We were just following protocol. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Right, the protocol where you attempt an arrest without legal authority. Doug waved his hands. It wasn't an arrest, it was... You called security, Nathan reminded him, for a homeowner in his own yard. And I bet when you made that call, you told them I was uncooperative or acting suspicious, didn't you? Doug's jaw locked. Nathan didn't need an answer. He'd been on the other end of too many calls like that to not know how it worked. Mark huffed, desperate to regain control. Look, Sheriff, no harm, no foul. We'll just... But before he could finish, a black SUV with a security company logo rolled up to the curb. And just like that, things got even worse. The SUV barely stopped before a uniformed guard hopped out. He was in his mid-30s, fit, buzz-cut, eager to show authority. A man who looked like he took his job way too seriously for someone whose biggest responsibility was writing parking violations at the neighborhood pool. His eyes landed on Nathan first, assessing the situation, and Nathan saw it immediately. That flicker of assumption. Nathan stayed relaxed, but inside, he was taking notes. The security officer, name tag reading B. Anderson, walked up with purpose. What's going on here? Mark wasted zero time jumping in. We had a situation with an unauthorized individual. HOA enforcement was handling it. Nathan chuckled. Unauthorized. Anderson gave Nathan a quick once-over, but didn't address him. You tried to remove him? Mark nodded. Yes, but he's refusing to comply. Nathan felt a slow burn start in his chest. Anderson turned to Nathan. Sir, I'm going to need you to... Nathan took one step forward and flashed his badge again. Anderson stopped mid-sentence. Nathan's voice dropped to a calm, measured tone. You're going to need me to do what, exactly? Anderson's entire demeanor changed in an instant. Nathan took his time, letting Anderson squirm. See, I'd love to hear exactly what you were about to say before you realized who I was. Anderson's face was turning red. Sir, I didn't mean... Nathan cut him off. Let me guess. You were about to ask me for ID, maybe ask me to leave my own property, or were you going to tell me I was trespassing? Anderson looked at Mark, silently begging for backup. Mark was no help. He was already sweating bullets. Nathan tilted his head. Because here's the thing. If I wasn't wearing this badge, you and I both know how this goes. You put hands on me, call the cops, and when my guys show up, you feed them a nice little story about an aggressive man causing trouble. Anderson had no words. Nathan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. Anderson blinked. What? Nathan pulled out his radio. Then, without breaking eye contact, he pressed the button. Dispatch, this is Sheriff Whitmore. I need 2 units at my location. Possible case of false imprisonment and impersonation of law enforcement. Silence. Mark's whole body stiffened. Patricia let out a quiet wheeze. Doug looked ready to pass out. Anderson? He physically took a step back. Nathan clipped the radio back onto his belt. Now you were saying? And just like that, the whole situation flipped. Silence weighed heavy in the air. Nathan had seen this moment before, that brief second when people realize they've messed up so badly, there's no clean way out. Mark's jaw clenched so tight it looked like his teeth might crack. Patricia's clipboard shook in her hands. Doug rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly fascinated with the ground beneath his feet. Anderson, the security guard, took a careful step back toward his SUV, like he could just fade away. Nathan didn't let him. You, he pointed at Anderson. Stay put. Anderson froze. You, Nathan turned to Mark. Start talking. Because when my units get here, we're going to have a little chat about your fake HOA police squad trying to detain a law-abiding citizen. Sound good? Mark's face went pale. Sheriff, listen, we didn't mean for it to get this far. Nathan smirked. Oh, I believe that. You meant to get just far enough to scare me off. But see, that's the problem with making assumptions. You never know who you're dealing with. Mark wiped sweat from his forehead. Look, maybe we got a little carried away, but no, Nathan cut in. You got reckless. And you got caught. Doug let out a nervous chuckle, trying to play it off. This is all just a misunderstanding. Nathan nodded. Yup. And misunderstandings can have serious legal consequences. Patricia spoke for the first time in minutes. We didn't mean any harm, Sheriff. We were just... Nathan's eyes snapped to her. Let me stop you right there. Because what you meant to do doesn't matter. What you actually did was attempt an unlawful detainment, which, last time I checked, is a crime. A sharp chirp came through Nathan's radio. Sheriff, units are 2 minutes out. Nathan nodded. Copy that. Mark physically flinched at the confirmation that backup was coming. Okay, look, maybe we overstepped, but we don't need to get the police involved. Nathan let out a short laugh. Oh, now you don't want the police involved? Anderson cleared his throat. Sheriff, I was just following their orders. I didn't know. Nathan held up a hand. Did they have badges? Anderson hesitated. No, but... Did they have arrest authority? No, but I thought... Then congratulations. Nathan folded his arms. You let some random people with clipboards boss you into violating someone's rights. Anderson had nothing to say to that. Nathan exhaled, glancing toward his house. Jalen was still on the porch watching. His wife, Monica, had come outside too, arms folded. This wasn't just about him anymore. It never was. Nathan looked back at Mark. Here's the part where you shut up and wait for my deputies. Mark opened his mouth, probably to protest, but then red and blue lights flashed in the distance. And just like that, this situation wasn't just embarrassing anymore. It was official. The moment the two squad cars pulled up, everything changed. Mark's bravado vanished. Patricia's clipboard slipped from her hands, hitting the pavement with a sad little slap. Doug shifted his weight nervously, looking like a man who just realized his HOA membership wouldn't protect him from actual law enforcement. Anderson, the security guard, kept his mouth shut, suddenly very interested in the tread pattern of his boots. Nathan didn't move. He just stood there, watching. The first deputy to step out was Sergeant Wilson, a tall black man in his late 40s, the kind of guy whose presence alone was enough to make people rethink their life choices. He took one look at the scene, then at Nathan. "Sheriff, everything good here?" Nathan jerked his chin toward Mark. "Got some folks here who took HOA duties a little too seriously, tried to detain me on my own property." Wilson's face didn't change, but Nathan saw it, the tiny flash of irritation behind his eyes, the kind that came from hearing the same stupid story over and over again. Wilson turned to Mark. "That true?" Mark stammered. We weren't trying to detain him. We were just..." Wilson raised a hand. "Stop." Mark shut up. The second deputy, Officer Bradley, walked up to Patricia and Doug. "I'm gonna need IDs from all of you." Doug let out a weak chuckle. "Oh, come on, that's not necessary." Bradley gave him a flat look. "You asked the sheriff for ID on his own property, but now you got a problem with it?" Doug's face burned red as he pulled out his wallet. Anderson, sensing he was about to get the worst of it, finally spoke up. "Look, Sheriff, I was just following their lead. I didn't know you lived here." Nathan's smile was cold. "That's the problem, Anderson. You didn't bother to find out before you assumed the worst." Anderson had nothing to say to that. As the deputies took statements, Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Monica. "Babe, this is already online." Nathan's stomach dropped. He turned toward his porch. Jalen was still sitting there, but now he had his phone up, recording. Nathan held up a hand. "Jalen?" Jalen shrugged. "I wasn't the first. The neighbors across the street were already filming." Nathan turned his head, and sure enough, a woman 2 houses down had her phone up, camera pointed right at them. Patricia saw her too and let out a horrified gasp. "Oh no," Doug muttered under his breath. "Oh, we're screwed." Mark looked like he wanted to melt into the pavement. Nathan sighed. He knew exactly what was about to happen. By nightfall, the clip would be everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. People would be arguing in the comments. Some would say it was outrageous. Others would say, well, if he had just shown his ID from the start. But one thing was certain. Mark and his little HOA squad had just gone viral for all the wrong reasons. And there was no coming back from that. Nathan stood on his porch later that evening, arms resting on the railing, watching the last bit of daylight fade behind the houses. The neighborhood was quiet now. No fake HOA police, no security guards, no squad cars. Just him. Behind him, Monica sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Every few seconds, she let out a little scoff or shook her head. Nathan already knew why. It was all over the internet. Jalen walked out onto the porch, phone in hand. "Dad, this thing has over 300,000 views already." Nathan sighed. "That fast?" Jalen nodded. "People are eating it up. Some are pissed. Some think it's hilarious. And of course, some are saying you were playing the victim." Nathan huffed a laugh. "That's how it always goes." Jalen leaned on the railing next to him. "You mad?" Nathan thought about it. Was he mad? No. Tired? Maybe. Disappointed? Absolutely. "Not mad," Nathan said finally. "Just wish people would stop seeing the worst first." Jalen scrolled a bit more, then looked up. "You think they'll get in trouble?" Nathan smirked. "Oh, they already have." Mark, Patricia, and Doug might not get arrested, but the embarrassment alone would be punishment enough. Their faces were all over the place. The HOA board had already been tagged in 1,000 comments, and from what Monica had read, homeowners were furious. Nathan turned to his son. "But that's not what matters." Jalen frowned. "What does?" Nathan sighed, looking him in the eye. "That you saw it happen." Jalen swallowed. "I mean, yeah. That you saw how quick people are to think you don't belong." Jalen didn't say anything. Nathan put a hand on his shoulder. "That's why I didn't let it slide." Jalen looked down, nodding a little. I get it. Nathan gave his shoulder a squeeze. Good. Monica's voice called from inside. Hey, food's ready. Jalen grinned and headed inside. Nathan took one last look at the neighborhood. The same houses, the same perfect lawns, but somehow everything felt different now, because tomorrow the world would still be talking about it. But for Nathan, this was just another day, another reminder that no matter how much you've done, how much you've earned, some people will always question if you belong, and that's why you have to stand your ground. If this story made you think, share it. Let's have the conversations that actually matter, because change starts with awareness.